Hello, Zalto Live listeners. Before we get started, we wanted to let you know that more teachings from Zen monk Claude AnShin Thomas are available in his 2 books, At Hell's Gate, A Soldier's Journey from War to Peace, and Bringing Meditation to Life, 108 Teachings on the Path of Zen Practice. Both are available wherever books are sold, and all proceeds go to the Zalto Foundation, dedicated to promoting nonviolence, awareness, and positive change.
Hello and welcome to Zalto Live, the podcast featuring Zen Buddhist monk Claude AnShin Thomas, who will share with you his life experiences that includes not only military combat, personal violence, and addiction, but also healing, transformation, and the ongoing joy of everyday life. Please enjoy listening.
Questions? Go ahead, Gemra.
What does the word manifestation mean to you?
A multitude of things. It depends on the context in which it's used. A manifestation can be a spontaneous expression of a group of people for one thing or another. It may be it may have a purpose. It may have no purpose other than the manifestation. It could be feelings that are evoked because of a certain set of experiences. It could be the actualization of an idea, taking an idea and bringing it into the concrete world. It manifests an idea. So it depends on the context. Question? Go ahead, Kelby.
Earlier today, you pointed out a pattern you noticed with your cushion. Could you explain what that teaching or what that was intended to? What was the purpose of that observation?
I don't know. What was the purpose of that observation?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
The idea of patterns in our behavior, encouraging us to notice them and try to change them. That was my interpretation.
Okay. You can't try to do a thing. You do the thing or you don't. Trying's lying. Yes. It is about, we do things often, there are a number of things we do without thought. We're not really present. They're habitual. We do them without being present to what we're doing. It's like, so when you get up in the morning, okay, and you put your socks on, which sock do you put on first? Yeah, see? But I'll bet if you pay attention, you'll realize that you're always putting on the sock on the same foot every day. But see, we don't notice these things. We just sort of take them for granted. And so it's to bring us more, when I do this, it's about noticing that I'm sort of caught in one of these habitual patterns And so to bring more conscious awareness to what I'm doing, I just change things up. You know, there are certain things. I mean, there are certain things that I do in the morning. There's a routine. So I get up, I make my bed, like I never slept in it. I spend some time in quiet reflection. And then I move into the day. I usually open up the curtains in the house. I've recently been encouraged to also clean the kitty litter box that's there, so I do that. Then we have some cats in the neighborhood that live outside, and we always put out food for them, so they have plenty to eat, and they're not as likely to go hunting the birds and squirrels and things. And so I do that. But I make an effort to sort of change things up. Like I don't always open the curtains in the same direction. I mean, there's only one way you can really open them. But as there are two sets of curtains. Actually, there's three sets of curtains plus some blinds. So what I make an effort to do is to change that up. To not always do it the same way all the time. Just to bring more attention into what it is that I'm doing. So yes, that's one of the reasons I addressed that this morning. And then, but how people interpret that is, I have zero power over that. Question. Yes, Siobhan.
Can you say something about your experience of losing someone close to you?
Well, when you say losing.
Yeah, to death.
Okay, when someone close to me dies.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, I just recently, within the last 3 weeks or so, maybe in the last month, I just discovered that someone whom I was, another veteran whom I was quite close to, died. Hadn't seen him in quite a while. Spike. Raymond Cornelius is his name. You know, my relation with death is sort of not like most people's. I remember, you know, we support a lot of animals through hospice. So actually they come to us, or when they come to us when, you know, it's sort of, they're in a jam. And so we support them as best we can. My hope is always that we can get them, they can get their health stable. That's always my hope. But by the time we get them, it's like, you know, it's just about, okay, so what can we do to support them to the end of their life? And I remember the first time we did that, when the cat died, it brought me in contact with the whole process of dying that I've been exposed to in the military. People being killed and my taking lives and all of the distractions, it all just sort of burst into the scene in that particular moment. It was, in a way, it was a gift that this cat gave to me, that I could actually be in contact with all of that and not turn away from it. Yeah, there's always some sadness. I experience loss. But I have to keep concentrating on the fact that these feelings are mine. And whatever else might arise around that. And and it doesn't last too long. I make an effort not to swim in it, not to become identified with these feelings. So I also, but it's true. From time to time, like my father died a long time ago, and I wasn't. I don't know where I was, someplace else when he died. And there are still times when it pops up where I just have some sadness around the fact that he died so young. He was 53, just turned 53. He was very young. There's often times I wished he could have seen how my life unfolded. Because in the period of time where I had contact with him just before he died, my life was pretty messy. So I have a lot of reactions around loss. But it comes and goes. So I don't grab onto it too tight. Yeah. And it's the reality of impermanence. Everything that comes into existence will pass away. I mean, I'm sort of much more sensitive to the fact that I'm on the short end of this existence. It's just like hard for me I can't get my mind around that really. But it's just true. I'm on the short end of this existence. I have no idea how much time is left. I just don't know. And I'm okay with not knowing most of the time. But I also know as I get older, as the body gets older, it becomes more vulnerable. I see that to the animals we support. As they get older, their body becomes more vulnerable. And this is true for this form too. And so I'm experiencing you could categorize it as loss. I don't really categorize it as a loss, although there are certain things that I used to do that I can't do, that I don't do now. Not too much, but some things. And for me, it's always about, okay, so in the current circumstances, like I can't run like I did when I was 25. But how can I then get that kind of cardio exercise? And so it's always a challenge, for me. So rather than a loss and mourning and complaining that I'm getting old, I can't do stuff, I go, no, get out of here with that. Like, what can I do? So loss takes on a lot of forms for me, but it's all wrapped up in the reality that everything that comes into existence will pass away. Everything. Impermanence. It's the infrastructure that supports our existence in cities and towns and the countryside. It all needs to be kept up. It's all impermanent. Yeah? You build a bridge, it doesn't last forever. You have to keep up with it. You have to maintain these things. It's like this form. This form needs to be maintained. I need to take as good a care of it as I can. So sometimes around certain loss, I like with my dad, I think there are times that I'm really angry because I know he didn't live the kind of life that facilitated him lasting very long. And so I sometimes I'm a bit angry about that, but not too much and not for too long. Because then he showed me how not to be. Yeah. Question. Yes, Kendra. Quiet, huh?
Do you do any special ritual or ceremony when there is an occurrence like the earthquake now in Bangkok in Myanmar, or a shooting in a school, or the loss of animals?
No, I don't. Generally, I don't. Mm-mm. Yes. If that were true, I'd be doing this a ritual every day because there's always something going on. And, I don't ignore it. But in some respect, it's far away from me. What I see about, for example, the earthquake and the damage from the earthquake and the loss of life, a lot of that has to do with the lack of oversight in building structures. And people don't take these things into consideration. It's like the floods that hit here with Hurricane Milton, up in Tennessee and North Carolina. And people were they built their houses and they built their businesses in flood zones. So I just go, it's sad, but it's sad. But no, I don't do nothing particularly special, no. Question?
Clarice had a question.
Oh, who did?
Clarice?
Oh, Clarice, you have a question.
Thank you. Anshin, when you go to a prison as a monk, how you can work with the inmates?
How can I
work with the inmates?
Work with the inmates?
Yes.
I don't do anything any different with the inmates than I'm doing with you right now. Nothing. I just stay with the basics. Because that's where awakening occurs, through a sustained, disciplined, committed practice. One of the things I do say to people whom I interact with in prison is that you can look at it in a couple of ways. Either you're in prison or you're in a monastery. You're cloistered. If you can frame it in that way and really immerse yourself into practice and do everything you can to wake up to the karma which you inherited, which influenced the karma that you created, which brought you to prison, things can change. Because if nothing changes, if you don't do anything different, then if you're slated to get out of prison, you'll end up back in prison. So, no, I don't do anything particularly different. Except for I am aware where I'm at, though. People don't end up in prison by accident, generally speaking. And people living in a prison environment, in that prison culture, that culture affects people. And so to be conscious of that. Yeah. Question? Kenshin. Yes, you're welcome.
Who or what supported you in becoming a better communicator?
No, not just a better communicator, a great communicator.
An excellent communicator.
Yes. The desire to be as clear as I possibly could. I just had that desire. And so to learn from every exchange that I've had. It's because language is the only way I have to interact with people. And interact with them in the ways in which I do, it is inadequate. Language can't really explain or define what it is that I experience and I'm attempting to pass on to others. So to learn how to use language, and I learn how to use language by asking for help. Whenever I'm writing, I'm a good writer. I'm able to express myself quite clearly, and still, whenever I have really important issues that I need to address through writing, I have someone take a look at what I've written. Yes, because I trust and value what they have to say, and then I learn from that. So it's that process. For example, with the first book at Hell's Gate, I went through a process of working with an editor, and it was through that process that I learned a lot. I learned a lot about how to express myself in as clear and direct way as possible. And I'm consciously aware that just because I think I'm being as clear as possible, doesn't mean I am. And so, like, I will write something and I read it out loud. And I'll go, oh, really? That doesn't make any sense. And then I work with that. And I also find out that I do an initial draft, I read it out loud, and then I see, then it supports that draft can develop, that it can be more clear. Because writing is different from speaking. In writing, I need to clearly express. For example, if I'm writing, how do I communicate in writing the color of a wall? See, those are the kinds of tasks that I take on for myself. When I'm writing, how do I communicate the experience of walking into a room? So I need to be conscious of my own feelings in that process. I have to be willing to express my feelings, to explain that, and to describe the various elements in the room, to really be detailed, to pay attention that I'm not just blasting into the room. So I'm not doing the same thing all of the time. Yeah. So it comes down to sometimes as simple a thing as, I'm always turning the cushion the same way. I'm going to change that up so I can be more present to what I'm doing. Yeah. Well, so for example, when I get up in the morning and I put on my trousers, I have a tendency to always put the right leg in first. So I practice putting the left leg in first. If you notice, when I use the makuyo, I use it with both hands. So sometimes I do it with the right hand, sometimes I do it with the left hand. That's so I'm always challenging myself in this way to develop my relationship with the world around me. And that has a lot to do with clarity of expression. Yeah. Does it, just because it makes sense in my mind, does it make sense on paper? Because it makes sense to me, does it make sense to you? And so I have to be really open to feedback. The world gives me feedback. Groups give me feedback. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting what people do. When I talk about, I talk about the Dhamma paramita. It's the first of the 8 paramitas. It's the paramita of generosity. And generosity is not just giving what's extra. Somebody interpreted that in another country to, you have to give until it hurts. I didn't say that, and there was nothing about what I communicated. It even implied that, but in their mind it did. So that's why being clear in what I communicate and understanding that supports me in not getting swept up in other people's mental manifestations. Question from the group. Yes, Genra.
Would you be willing to share a bit what Vietnam Veterans Day is and what it means to you?
Oh, Oh yeah, for those of you who may not know, today is it's not a federal holiday or anything like that, but it's called Vietnam Veterans Day. It's just a day that was set aside by proclamation to acknowledge those U.S. soldiers and others who fought in the Vietnam War. So that would be U.S. soldiers, Thai soldiers, Korean soldiers, Australian soldiers, and New Zealand, soldiers from New Zealand. They were the troops that were primarily involved in the fighting in Vietnam. However, there were also troops from Great Britain that were there. They just weren't there in the kind of numbers as Australia and New Zealand. So it's to just, I guess the day was established to recognize that there was a pretty steep cost for those of us who serve, particularly in combat, mentally, spiritually, and physically. What's it mean to me? I didn't even know. Today, somebody wrote. I didn't know till you wrote me. You wish me well on Vietnam Veterans Day, and I went, oh, Vietnam Veterans Day. So then I took it upon myself to write to some of the Vietnam veterans whom I know, just to acknowledge that we have that connection of service. Yeah. But meh. Question from the group. Yes, Kelly.
Would you say that having a passion for practice, this kind of practice, is a problematic idea or statement?
No, not. If I don't have a passion with it, I'm not going to stick to it. I won't. Now, there's a difference between a passion and an obsession, or and the way we often describe it is people will come and they'll be in a retreat with me, or they'll come to a talk and they catch on fire. You know, they're like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing, you know. That rarely lasts. Really. There's some examples where it has. But yes, without a passion to really take the risk to experience what can be revealed to us through this sustained discipline and committed application of the forms that I pass on to you, it won't last. It'll get to it. It's that if I don't have that kind of passion, everything else will just be like turning the cushion clockwise all the time. Yeah, we just do things we do things without thought. We just do them. We're just doing them. Yeah, we're not doing them with intention. Yeah. So yeah, passion. I burned to wake up, boy. Without a passion to practice, I would have. Yeah. I'd have stopped doing this. I wouldn't be here this weekend. Yeah, I'd be doing something else, like, I don't know, watching Netflix or something. Yeah. But yes, I just, oh gosh, I understand that what I know is the reality, the real consequences of not waking up. And I have no idea what awakening means, other than I stopped doing evil or unhealthy stuff. I stopped repeating patterns that are destructive to me and to others, regardless of how those may show themselves to me. Yeah. Yes. I'll leave it at that. Question. Yes, Siobhan.
You have a number of sanghas in various countries, and I'm wondering how you came to be connected with them and what your role is. with them. Yeah.
Go ahead, Kenshin. Kenshin can address that question.
I'll start with this. So the history that I observed is that AnShin has been taking invitations for a long time, already since '93, to go to other places, not just in the US, but also initially in Europe. So the involvement with Germany started in '94 when he accepted an invitation to come to Berlin. And out of that, other European, I mean, he had been already to Switzerland and to Italy. And consequently, there were people who stayed with the practice who then also asked to set up a group and do weekly meditations there in their own country, in their own city or town. And then the same happened for South America. There was initially a woman who was mixed nationality. She was Swiss and Chilean. And she had read AnShin's book. So the book has been a great tool to reach people. So she asked if AnShin would come. She had a retreat center together with her husband in the countryside north of Santiago. And there we met someone from Colombia, and she said, "Oh, would you coming here? Would you come to Colombia?" And AnShin said, "Absolutely." So that's how Chile and Colombia got established. And then, of course, through COVID, a lot of that then became online, and that's why now these groups are also being mentioned as a possibility to sit together online.
Genra, you can also respond to that question.
Well, I think AnShin already did a lot, but I wasn't with the Sangha yet. In 1997, 98, the Salto Sangha in Germany was founded. So the Salto Foundation is AnShin founded is the mother, and then the Salto Sangha in Germany was established as a non-profit organization, just with a few members from several cities where AnShin was invited to. And from there it was just growing, was in numbers of members, and finally we moved with the Salto Sangha to Leverkusen in Germany because there's a little center here. And then more and more we just have students who invite AnShin and Kenshin back, and then we have events.
A mouse just came in through the cat door.
Leander just came in with a mouse. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And so I will also say that, yes, the Salto Sangha was established in Germany. However, until Genrai came on board, it was quite chaotic and not really attended to. And Genrai really invested in solidifying, cleaning things up, making sure that the Salto Sangha was in good standing. I get invited to do talks. People have read the book, or they've heard about me, or they've seen something online, or somebody's talked about me somewhere. And so they will approach because I'm accessible. My email address is in the back of the book, and and now with the advent of the website and things, the Zalto Foundation and Sanghas have evolved so far beyond what they were in the mid-90s. It's a much more, there are people who are really committed and work diligently, and they're very bright, creative, and exciting people. They donate their time. Everything is donated. That's clear up the front. Nothing is paid. Nothing. And that's what I think at the heart of it. That's what makes the community so powerful. So I get invited. Say I get invited to do a public talk in Stuttgart, and somebody is at the talk who lives in Hungary. And then they approach me and they say, "Oh, would you come to Hungary?" And I go, "Sure." And then we explain the process of inviting. My travel needs to be covered. And then I need to be provided a simple place to stay and simple food to eat. And so let's say I go to Hungary, and I do a public talk there. I do a retreat there, and someone's there from Russia, or someone's there from Australia, and they go. They express. They will approach me afterwards and say, "Wow, that was I really appreciate what you're doing and your relationship with Zen practice. Would you consider coming to Russia?" And I said, "Sure, if you invite me. And this is what it takes." They say, "Would you come to Australia?" I said, "Sure." And that's my commitment to essentially. I rarely ever say no to Kenshin's consternation, to Genrai's consternation, because Genrai does the organizing in Europe. Kenshin supports her with that, and Kenshin handles the organization here. Here and in South America. And because the two of them go, I just don't say no. And they go, ah. But out of every person who expresses an interest, say out of every 10 people, I might get really one or two who really follow through. So it just has grown. It has grown by word of mouth, and by people's experiencing with me. Yeah. Question from the group. Yes, Kenshin.
So I also have reflected on this, what is habitual. So in the morning, with feeding the animals, I keep a concentration on a certain series of actions. Mm-hmm. Can that also just be a good practice point to just stay concentrated on that series without necessarily always changing it?
Well, I think I need to always be attentive to these habitual patterns. Just because I'm doing something the same all the time doesn't mean it's either the right thing, the right way, or the best way, or the right thing. So I need to just, as long as I'm attentive. I get up in the morning, I make my bed like I never slept in. I do it every morning. But I do that with attention and I do that with intention. I start my day with intention, with attention and intention. Yeah. And so this is what we have to pay attention to. Is am I thoughtful, or am I just blowing through this because it's a task I need to get done? I can tell so I have a lot of communications with people who are organizing and doing different things, and I can tell when they're paying attention or when they're just blasting through things to get it off their plate. I can tell. And that's why I think I address this topic. That's why it becomes so important to me. Yeah. Every email that I write, every text that I revise, every text that it takes energy, takes time and energy, because I pay attention. It's important to me. It's just not another task or job to get off my plate. Yes. Question? Yes, Clarice. If I'm being passionate at what I do, it's like I never say no. And I thrust myself into all sorts of circumstances. But whatever the circumstances, I'm steady. We sit just to sit, we walk just to walk, we eat just to eat. We learn the practice of deep listening and mindful speech. And I give quite clear instructions on that. And it's incredible the people that they can't or don't want to follow instructions. But nonetheless, I don't attempt to micromanage or force them. Practice is for those who want it, not those who need it. So yes, there's not a clear demarcation point or a static point. It's quite fluid. Question from the group.
How do you deal with, like, when you're expecting too much of someone else? Or how to notice if that's going on?
Yeah, well, it'll be painful. My relation with that someone else would be really painful. That's pretty easy. And actually, what it is I'm attempting, it's not that I expect too much, I'm attempting to get people to conform to the way I think things ought to be done, because my way is the best way, instead of just giving clear instructions and watching how people deal with things. Like when I work with you on a job site, I've had to learn how to develop the quality of patience, understanding that it's not something you're familiar with, that you didn't grow up doing it so much. And so to be able to educate you, the only frustration comes when you don't listen. And that would be true whether it's you or anyone else, when you just don't listen. Because I'm not telling you to do it like I do it, but I'm saying it needs to be done in a certain way. You need to pay attention. You go swinging around a 12-foot board, and without paying attention, you're going to break something, you're going to knock something, you're going to mess something up, you can get hurt. And so, and it's the same with practice. And I have to be willing. I might have a reaction. I might think. People do things the way they do them, and I have to see if the way they do them is effective and efficient, and it's getting done what needs to be gotten done. That's what I need to be able to do. That they're not doing it the way I would do it, but the way they're doing it, is it working? That's what I need to be able. I need to be able to step back and watch, rather than attempt to control the process. And if I'm attempting to get people to do what I think they should do, when I think they should do it, in a way I think they should do it, then I'm attempting to control the process. Then I'm disappointed. They're not measuring up to my expectations.
And that would also be for emotional, like if you're expecting too much emotionally from a relationship.
Well, from connections with people, I just have to acknowledge it's not about expecting. I just have to accept that people are where they at and they offer where they're at. I can communicate what it is that I need to be able. We're back to communication. I need to be able to communicate clearly what it is that I want, what it is that I need in a particular circumstance, and do that without being demanding. And if I've been really clear about that and the person just keeps ignoring it, then that tells me something about their connection to me. Yeah, it's like every time I'm talking here, it's like you're interrupting me with this bell. No. Okay. Yes, what I find is that with a lot of people that because people are I hate to say it like this, but people are my business. It's not really a business and the idea of business, but people are my business. And it's always the hardest thing for me what really is a struggle for me is to notice how generally, how self-centered people generally are. It's incredible. They have their view, they have their idea about what's going on, and so, but it has not so much to do with what's actually going on, or what they want to see happen, or how they think things should be, or how they think people should respond to them. You know, if I were locked up in that, I would never. I would take off my robes and never go in public again, ever. Yeah. So practice is about meeting circumstances right where they are. And then you can see from that point. You know, are my expectations realistic? And if my expectations are not unrealistic, and is the person or persons or groups able to adjust their fixed ideas about things, or able to listen to what I have to say and absorb that and make an effort to go in that direction. And if they're not, then it's just about accepting that reality. Yeah. So I just know if I want something done, I do it myself, because this gets done the best way. It's not very true, but it is true that for example, I just built a catio. That's the second one. The first one I built with someone helped me, but what I did is I watched what they did, I learned from what they did, and when I built the second one, it's better to improve on that, to really. And a couple of times I had to take things apart and redo them. I don't mind doing that. It's okay. I don't get angry. I don't throw things too much anymore. Last question. Any last questions? Yeah, I did have Siobhan, I had an invitation to go to Russia, to Siberia, and this was, but then COVID came, and then the invasion of Ukraine happened. So that's changed. Life is like that. It's a constant state of flux and change. I was excited about the possibility. I would like to have met some of these. There are some shamanic traditions in these old cultures. They're historical. It's not like you got some white guys going out and going to South America and eating some ayahuasca and taking some courses on how to be a shaman. It's not like that. These are long established traditions, and I would have been of interest to me to meet these people. Didn't happen this time. Yeah. Anyway, we'll finish it up here. And we'll take a short pause, and then we'll move to the next form of practice, which will be sitting. Yes? And recitations. We will sit in Roxy's, if you have one. Okay. Hold your seat till I leave the room. I mean, there are some things that I do repetitively, but to do these repetitive things with attention. So, and that's what happens. It's like the cushion. Rotate it, restore it, but really do it with attention and with intention. And see, now I forgot which way I used to turn it. So to rotate the cushion. Then take this one and place it on the back. It's repetitive. I do it all the time. But to take these repetitive actions and do them with intention and with attention, that is the heart of practice. See, it's such a relief to just never have to wonder whether that's going to happen or not. The bell's just there. So thank you. And see, then that's another thing. So we teach someone else how to use the bell, and they don't have that kind of, and people get too up in their head about stuff, and they complicate something that's really very simple. But it's also, it's like, I studied martial arts for decades. I studied and taught. And I remember what it was like to learn a form. So you would learn a particular form, and I knew some really sophisticated forms. They were like 15, 20 minutes long. And to get all of the movements down. And I remember how it wasn't until I just stopped attempting, stopped trying to get it right, and just did the thing, that it really then would begin to take place. It's the same with practice. It's like the first time we had, those of us who've taken Tokudo, had the shaved heads, we wear the kesa, the big long formal robe. And I remember the first time I tried to put that, I made an effort to put that robe on. Man. It was like, and then it was like how to take it off. There's a real technique there. And as long as I was caught up in my head attempting to figure it all out in my head so I could get it right and do it, it was forever complicated. It wasn't until I just surrendered and just did it with attention and intention that it just became fluid. And still there are times where it just doesn't open up right, not just kind of go like, I'm lost, you know.
Thank you for listening to this episode on Zalto Live. If you would like additional information, please look at the show notes or visit zalto.org. That's ZALTHO.org. Our work is made possible solely through donations, so please consider making a tax-deductible gift on our website. We wish you well and thank you.